Hello and welcome to visit the exhibit at the MAFAC Arts Center. We're located on 109 North 3rd Street, and we invite you to come and see the Suzannah Gao exhibit that is up right now, and Suzannah will have her work up through May 20th. The title for her exhibit is Vices and Virtues, and we'll talk about the title a little bit as we go around and look at her lithographs. Suzannah is from Marshall, and she's also a graduate of Southwest State University, and so we are really pleased to have her share this work with us. Suzannah, tell us how you got into the lithographs.
Well, I took a printmaking class in high school where they had us do lino cuts because they're fairly inexpensive. You don't have to spend a lot of money on them. And then, you know, outside of college, it was mainly just cost effective. I don't have my own press, so things that I can do with just tools around my house is better than things that I have to pay someone to use a press or that kind of thing.
But you can do the printing at home then?
Yes, yep.
Okay.
I use...
Explain that a little bit.
You get a light enough weight paper, like you can even use like printer paper, standard printer paper, because it's a real lightweight. You get your plate, you ink it up, you put your paper down, and you can either use your hands or another tool to try and get the ink to transfer. I use the back of a wooden spoon most of the time because it gives a nice even pressure.
And you don't have a roller?
Not, the roller is more for putting the ink on the plate.
Okay. This is the first two of your prints, and we have, what, 16 here, I think it is?
16, yep.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about these, and I want to sometime talk about how you selected the titles for them, too.
Okay.
Now explain what this paper is that you have used.
This is a lightweight Japanese printing paper. It's called Kitakata paper. I'm not exactly sure what it's made out of, but it's designed for hand transferring. The Japanese are known for woodblock prints, hand transferred woodblock prints. So this is a really good lightweight paper. One side has kind of a tooth to it. The other side is smooth. I printed on the smooth side. You can print on either. So it's a good paper for this sort of medium. I didn't do wood blocks, but same principle. So.
And what kind of ink is used?
This is just a standard, it's called relief printing ink. So it's a little bit heavier, it's stickier, because it's meant to go over the surface of a picture rather than down in the grooves and crevices. So this I think is just speedball ink, which is pretty standard.
Do you have trouble purchasing the paper or the ink? I mean, is it...
The ink is pretty easy to come by. You can find it even in like craft stores, things like that. The paper I had to special order from a company, an art company called Dick Blick. If we had an actual store closer, I could probably buy it in person, but yeah. I think the closest one is up in the cities. So. And
they do 24-hour shipping, so it
doesn't
take very long.
It was just as cost effective to just order it online.
Yeah. And the theme of these, talk a little bit about the theme of all of these.
So the theme behind them is the vices and virtues. So I have 16 total, the 7 heavenly virtues and the 7 deadly sins, and then 2 extras. One is another version of a vice, and the last one is a lesser known or not as cardinal virtue. So, and that's where all the titles come from. They're all going to be representations, my interpretations of those ideas and concepts. So,
and we have some of the samples. Or what do you call these?
Plates.
The plates.
They're called plates.
Okay, so we have some of the plates to be able to show the viewers to see what the carving looks like before you get to the ink and printing. Tell us just a little bit about each one of these.
So on the left,
Sorry.
Okay, so this one here is going to be justice, the virtue of justice. A lot of the symbolism for that one is the scales, the dove, things that we normally associate. You'll notice that she does have a blindfold, but she's taking it off. Some modern depictions have justice being blind, but actually back in the day, it was more common to show justice as being clear-eyed, nothing obstructing her view. So I tried to kind of play with both of those ideas.
Great, great. And these are all what I call these Greek style?
Yes, Greek or Roman,
Roman.
somewhere in that kind
Okay.
of.
Which I think makes them all the more interesting.
Yeah, just a lot of fun textures you can have with the clothing and things like that. And I also chose those time periods because a lot of the depictions that you see of these ideas were either from that time period or they were calling back to that time period with their art.
Okay.
So.
And let's look at the Prudence one. That's Prudence 2. I can't see it with my...
Well, and it is just Prudence, but because I had printed this same plate once before, I have to change the way that the titling is done. But Prudence is usually depicted or shown with symbols like deer, because they're always watchful, they're always paying attention, they're always listening. She has a compass down there as sort of a guide for her way. That kind of thing are all pretty standard for Prudence.
Are these... explain to us the numbering. These are all what are called artist proof? Is that correct or
So
no?
these are actually just part of a series.
Okay.
So what usually with printmaking you have a fraction in the corner, and the first number, the top number, is going to be what number it is in that series. The bottom number will tell you how many were printed in that series. For this one, because I don't have a press and it's very hard to get consistency across an entire set, I just did a series of one print. So all of these are going to be one of one. In the future, I would like to print full series, so probably something more like 20 prints.
So the 20 in a series? Or no,
you can-
this might be a series. and
Right.
then-
So like I mentioned with this one, I had printed it before. So the
Yeah.
one that I have printed already is just Prudence. The Roman numeral after it is that this is a new series.
Right.
This
Okay.
is a
Okay.
different
And,
set.
and I assume that makes it more valuable.
It does tend to make the value more because that bottom number this is all that I'm printing of it. Some people destroy the plate or put a line through it to show that you're not going to print anymore. I haven't done that. I get a little too attached to my plates. I spend a lot of time working on
Sure.
them, so I can't bring myself to deface them. And like I said, I would like to print an actual series at some point of, a set number 20, 25, something like
Would
that.
would you go back to these and continue to carve on these?
These ones are...
And then it would be a new...
You could do that. I don't think I would, and that's because these I feel are fairly complete. I've already put a lot of detail in them, and I don't know what I would really change on them.
All right. Alex is showing us some of the original design plates, and tell us a little bit about the ink is on the high points
Yes.
of the...
So I like to explain this sort of like stamp making. You take this is linoleum, that's why it's called a lino cut. Just doesn't have the hard surface on it like your flooring does. And you take a gouge knife and you carve into it. So all of these white areas are going to be what I carved away, and then the black areas are what was left. And then you take a roller with ink, it's called a brayer, and you roll it over the surface, and all of these high points will pick up that ink. and then you use that to make your image. And these will be a reverse of what you have on the paper because it is a mirror image when you put it down. So,
Suzannah, do you draw your design on the linoleum before you start carving?
yes.
Okay.
I guess it was a three-part thing for me. I drew out the figures on paper, and then I searched and searched and searched and eventually found an office supply store that still sold carbon paper.
Oh, wow.
And then I would put the carbon paper down and get the figures on there.
Yeah.
And then I would go in and develop the background of the image. And then I use Sharpie markers because I'm less likely to rub it off. And then from there I would go in and carve.
So that takes quite a while then.
Yeah, I'd say that
Show us another one of these, please.
Yeah. I'd say a lot of these took, the design process might have taken a couple hours over the course of a couple days. And then the carving itself can take, I don't know, I think anywhere from a day to 3 or 4.
The detail on this one is just amazing.
Yeah, and this one's a little bit harder to make out the details because this one has been printed a few more times than some of the other ones.
With the grains and the trees and the grasses and
yeah. So
and that was
Prudence.
Prudence.
This one is Prudence, so you can see how this one is a reverse of what we've already seen. So
Is that change your thinking when you got to imagine it in
sometimes
reverse?
I've found that it usually works out to my benefit because I've been staring at it so long. I might not like certain things on it, and then when I print it and you take away the three-dimensionality of it, you take away all of the extra marks, and I'm like, oh, okay, no, I like that. So, it's kind of a trial and error sort of thing, but I have yet to print one that once I got it printed, I'm like, this was
Great.
bad.
Great.
So,
Well, that one goes in the garbage. You start all over. Huh?
yeah.
Does it take it takes quite a while for these to dry, I assume?
It's an oil-based ink, so yeah, that's why I wrap them in newsprint. These were printed weeks ago, and they're still kind of wet.
Sticky.
So,
Yep.
yeah. I could clean them off with turpentine or a paint thinner, but then it can affect how ink adheres to it in the future.
Yep.
This one here is called Pride Fallen. There is another one that is just called Pride later on in the set. And this one is, there's a lot of different symbolism associated with the sin of pride. And one that I thought was kind of interesting was that it's represented both by someone on a horse, but also someone falling from a horse. So I kind of thought it would be fun to play with that idea. So while the other Pride is mounted and looking very sure of herself, this is her falling, being bucked off her horse. So
That's a nice one to see.
Yeah.
I mean, to think about the display and the picture itself.
This one is going to be Avarice, or otherwise known as Greed, which it had some interesting symbolism tied to it that I had to do a little more research on. The more obvious ones, like she's clutching a purse to her because she doesn't want anyone to take it from her. Her outfit was inspired by the mythical creature, the harpy, which is found in Dante's Inferno in the same level of hell as those who suffer from the sin of avarice. So I kind of wanted to play with that. And then the apples actually was one that I couldn't find a lot of information on, but after doing some digging, it comes back to the story of Adam and Eve and how Eve's greed led to the downfall of man. So I kind of wanted to include that one. And then also greed is usually considered one of those things that's blinding. So
I was just going to ask the question, is she blindfolded?
So
there's so much detail in that, you really have to study it.
I like trying to get as much detail out of it as I can.
That makes them interesting.
Um,
Now this one is a little more textured.
It
Which
is. It is. At first I thought the texture was going to be overpowering, but it turned out I'm actually very happy with this one. And this is going to be the Sin of Lust. Lust is an interesting one because as time went on, they started to depict lust less as a sin and more as the ideal of love, Venus, things like that. So I kind of wanted to make her not look evil. But it's associated with things like spring flowers, like in her crown. I didn't have her naked. I just didn't want to depict her that way. Sparrows, because they're everywhere, they're very common. They're associated with things like that. And then the pigs, as far as I can tell, it's because pigs tend to have a lot of babies all at once. So a lot of other common symbolism for lust is going to be things like rabbits and things like that. So, but I thought that was a little too obvious, so I wanted to play with some of the ones that
I
are a
love
little
that
less
the pig is smiling.
I think pigs always kind of look like they're smiling, though. That's every expression I can find on pigs is usually a smile. So.
Now this is what we looked at the plate for this one.
Yes, this was one of the plates that I had out. This is sloth. Sloth is one of the sins associated, obviously, with laziness. Donkeys are associated with sloth because they tend to be very stubborn and they'd rather not be moving than doing anything. So, I mean, she really only has the donkey in this photo, but I tried to make her look as lethargic, and she's a little heavier set because that's another thing associated with sloth. Just wanted her to look just as done with the world as possible. So
Interesting.
yeah.
It's interesting when you give the definition to the title, you know, and it makes the picture more understandable, I think.
Yeah. And this, like I mentioned, is going to be the other version of Pride. This is the one where she has yet to be thrown off of her horse. You know, I wanted to include things like she's very well dressed. She takes a lot of pride in her appearance. I did sort of a peacock motif on her dress because peacocks are considered prideful animals. They're always showing off their tails. And I tried to make her just as adorned as I could.
Well, in the background, it's even very elaborate, you know, and kind of glamorous.
So, yep, just, you know, more clothes than she needs, more jewelry than she needs, and just looking kind of disgusted with everything around her because she's above it all, literally and figuratively. And these next few are actually going to be virtues as opposed to sins. We've mostly talked about sins up to this point. This one is going to be fortitude. Fortitude is sort of like bravery. And this one was kind of a different take on it. A lot of them will be someone very strong and heroic and defending the weak, and I kind of wanted to show sort of the aftermath of it rather than the actual before. So she's been beaten around and bloodied, and there's a dead lion in the background there because she just fought off a lion, and lions are associated with some of the sins like wrath, so which is something that fortitude is sometimes depicted fighting against is wrath. So kind of wanted to play with that.
That is a woman.
Yes.
Okay.
These are all female.
Okay.
So, and that's mainly because in Greece, even with the masculine traits, they would portray them usually with the ideal female. Yep. So, and she's not the ideal female. She's not curvy and buxom and everything, but I wanted to still have it be a female.
Yep.
So.
Okay.
So this is going to be the virtue of temperance, moderation in things. The symbolism with that, there was a lot to play with because there's moderation of drink, there's moderation on sexuality, that kind of thing, lots of different ways to take it. So I wanted her to be a little more covered. I wanted her hair covered because that's usually a sign of humility, of being pure and saving yourself, and same with the lilies in the background. She's holding a pitcher for the alcohol, which is usually how she was depicted, as having a water jug for watering down wine. And then the last one is going to be the sword that's bound up, which is a little more on the sexual side of things. So I just kind of tried to mix it together, make something that symbolized all the different versions of temperance.
Good, 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 good.
So this is going to be one of it's not a cardinal virtue, but it's one of the virtues in general. This is truth. Truth is usually depicted as being a naked woman, very in your face, full frontal, carrying a mirror and holding the sun. And I thought that was just kind of odd. So I tried to play with something a little bit different. She is still naked, but she's not full, just flaunting it, walking around, and she does have a mirror. I guess I kind of wanted to play with the idea of they always seem to show truth as being something that needs to be revealed, as though it's hidden. So she's inside, she's staring out the window, she's not with anyone, she's still waiting to be found. So kind of Rapunzel-y, I guess, in a way. These next couple are going to be what are considered the cardinal virtues, which are faith, hope, and charity, sometimes known as love. The Catholic version of true love is usually considered charity. And in this one, we have a woman who is clothing a naked child, which is the number one symbolism for charity, is usually clothing those who need to be clothed. And then the pelican in the background is actually an interesting piece of symbolism, because there is an old wives' tale about how pelicans would pierce their own breasts to feed their children. So it became associated with charity, just being so giving of yourself that you even would be willing to bleed for them.
That's interesting. I've never heard that.
Yeah.
About the pelican.
I thought that was kind of interesting. This is the cardinal virtue of hope. She is by the sea. A lot of hope symbolism has to do with ocean, and that's because of things like anchors and ships, and faith being the anchor of hope. Crows are actually associated with hope, which seems very strange because we use them as sort of a foreboding sort of animal. But the Greeks viewed them as a symbol of hope because the noise they make is similar to their word for tomorrow. So it was seen as a hopeful omen.
Future.
So, and this is the last of the cardinal virtues. This is going to be faith. And this one's I guess the most explicitly religious of them, just based on what it is. A lot of things like candles and baptismal fonts are used as symbolism for faith, as well as holding the fist to the chest is also considered a symbol of faith. So I kind of wanted to incorporate those into the mix. And they said that usually if you were to put a baptismal font in the image for faith, it would be adorned with things like the birth of Christ and things like that. So I tried to include that along the outside of the baptismal font. So these final three are going to be sins again, or vices. Here we have gluttony. She's a bigger girl, obviously. She enjoys her food. She's got a couple amphoras of wine in the background, as well as her cup, which is adorned with wolves, which are symbols of gluttony. She's got fruit on the floor. She doesn't care. And then the bear on the back of her chair is also a symbol of gluttony. which, as my sister pointed out, is not very fair because bears need to eat, otherwise they die over the winter. So it's kind of a bad rap for them, but the symbols are what they are. This one is actually labeled wrong. I made a mistake. This is envy. This is the sin of envy, which differs from greed in that whereas greed is being very possessive and everything like that, envy is wanting things that you don't necessarily need that someone else has. So we have her here. She's in a marketplace. She's clearly already got money. She's well dressed. She's wearing jewelry, but she's still stooping to pick money up because she just can't get enough. And actually dogs, while usually attributed to happier things in symbolism like loyalty and things like that, there are instances of using dogs as a symbol for envy. And after doing some research on it, the best I can conclude is because they give you those eyes when you have something they want. So
They'll stare you down.
Yep, they'll stare you down and they'll do everything in their power to get you to give it to them. So, and then this last one is going to be the deadly sin of wrath. And as I mentioned earlier with fortitude, one of the symbols for wrath is going to be the lion. So I have her here. She looks wild and savage, and she's brandishing a knife, and she'll just tear into you at a moment's notice. So that one's a little more easy to figure out than some of the other ones, I feel. So.
Suzannah, thank you for sharing this with us. And we have certainly learned a lot about mythology and the deadly sins and the virtues. We sure enjoyed having it. And again, the exhibit is going to be up till May 20th. So please stop down to the Art Center and look at it in the original. We are open noon till 5:30 Tuesday through Friday, and from 11 till 3 on Saturday. So we hope those times would fit, or this tape will be shown several times on the cable channels, so you can catch it there. And thank you for sharing your talents with us.
Thank you.
It's been wonderful.